So, how exactly does a president get rid of a government program that's been around for over 50 years, basically with just a signature? Well, today we're going to do just that. We're going to deconstruct Executive Order 14207 to see the exact mechanism, the what, the why, and the how behind a single stroke of the pen. Here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to break it down into 5 parts. First, we'll look at the order itself. Then we'll identify the program it's targeting. After that, we'll dig into the official reasoning, look at the actual elimination plan, and finally, we'll decode some of that legal fine print. So, let's jump right in. All right, first things first, what exactly are we even looking at here? At its heart, an executive order is a tool. It's what the president uses to manage the day-to-day operations of the federal government. Think of it as a formal directive that carries the weight of law, but it's aimed squarely at the agencies and people inside the executive branch. So for this specific order, number 14207, here's the timeline. It was signed on February 10th, 2025, but the really key date is 4 days later when it got published in the Federal Register. That's the government's official journal. The minute it's in there, it becomes official policy. So, we know what an EO is. Now, what or who is this one actually targeting? The target here is something called the Federal Executive Institute, or the FEI. It's not new. It's been around for more than half a century, since the LBJ administration. Now, you have to notice the specific wording used in the executive order itself. It describes the FEI as a program purportedly designed to provide leadership training. That one word, purportedly, tells you a whole lot. It's very intentional language. Every executive order has a purpose, right? It has a stated reason for existing. Section 1 of this document is where the administration lays out its official case for getting rid of the FEI. It all starts with this really broad policy goal. The idea is to get rid of any program that doesn't, and I'm quoting here, directly benefit the American people. This is the big picture justification that kind of frames the whole rest of the order. And here's where it starts to get way more specific. The document argues that the FEI helps to enlarge and entrench what it calls the Washington, D.C. managerial class. So it's directly linking this program to the growth of a bureaucracy that it claims is out of touch. And this is the final piece of the why. The order says that by getting rid of the FEI, the real goal is to shift the government's focus away from serving itself, the bureaucracy, and back towards serving taxpayers, with a big emphasis on competence and the Constitution. So that's the official reasoning, laid out right there in the text. Okay, so that's the rationale. But how does an order like this actually get the job done? Well, Section 2 is pretty much the action plan. It's a really direct 2-step process. First, it points to one specific person, the Director of the Office of Personnel Management, or OPM. That person is ordered to take all the necessary steps to shut the FEI down. And second, it revokes the very documents that created the institute in the first place, going all the way back to a memorandum from 1968 and an executive order from 1967. It's basically erasing the program's legal foundation. And that brings us to the last part, Section 3, the general provisions. This section can often look like a bunch of legal boilerplate, but it's really important because it sets the boundaries on the order's power. So this section is basically putting up some legal guardrails. It's making it clear that this one order doesn't mess with the authority of other agencies or the budget office. It also says, look, this whole elimination thing has to follow the law, and you can only use the money that's available. And this last one is crucial. It says this document doesn't create any new right for someone to sue the government over. It's the legal system's way of making sure one action doesn't accidentally cause chaos everywhere else. So when you boil it all down, that's the basic anatomy of this executive order. It picks a target, the FEI, it gives a reason to refocus government, and it gives a clear command, telling the head of OPM to shut it down and tear up its founding papers. The what, the why, and the how. Simple as that. When you see an institution that's been around for 50 years get targeted for removal with just a few strokes of a pen, it really makes you think about a much bigger question. What does it truly take to build, or, like we're seeing here, to unbuild a piece of the massive federal government machine? It's a pretty powerful reminder of how quickly policy can be made and unmade.